On April 5, 2023, around midnight, a man called the emergency service in the city of Robinson, Texas, and reported a fire near a residential complex. The man explained that he was quite far away and could not confirm whether anyone was watching the fire or not. He added that there was a thunderstorm with lightning, and the fire may have started because of it. The operator promised to send patrol officers to the reported location. When the officers arrived, they extinguished the fire with a fire extinguisher and immediately called for backup because they discovered a large plastic container and inside it a severely burned human body. The conditions for work were far from ideal. Rain was pouring down, thunder kept rumbling, and lightning flashed across the sky. Despite this, the fire, clearly fueled by some kind of accelerant, kept trying to reignite. To preserve any evidence that might still have survived, the officers set up a tent over the body. They had to battle the fire, the rain, and the wind, when suddenly another complication arose. Out of nowhere, a dog appeared, barking loudly and refusing to leave despite the chaos around it. Clearly distressed, it ran back and forth and behaved very persistently. The officers realized it wasn't staying there without a reason. The dog was very clean, and they didn't know whether it had been drawn by the smell or if the body in the container belonged to its owner. The officers wanted to have someone bring an animal microchip scanner to identify the owner. After several unsuccessful attempts to catch the dog, the investigators refocused on the scene and it disappeared into the field. But fortunately, it would return, because the key to solving this case would come from a single witness who could not tell what it had seen. According to one witness, she saw the fire long before the man contacted emergency services. The blaze was already burning at 9:21 p.m., which explained why the body was so severely burned. External identification was impossible. However, an officer noticed a bra strap and realized that the body was female. The unidentified victim was taken to the medical examiner's office, where it was determined that she had been shot in the head. She was killed sometime between April 2nd and April 5th, and the fire was set after her death. With this information, the police returned to the scene the following day and continued searching for evidence. However, they found neither footprints nor tire tread marks. That same morning, on April 6th, a local resident managed to catch the dog that stubbornly refused to leave the scene of the fire. He contacted animal control, and they scanned the microchip, discovering the dog's name, Titan. His 26-year-old owner was Mandy Rose Reynolds. The young woman was from Emmett. Detectives tried to contact her by phone, but she did not answer. They then left her a message, only informing her that her dog had been found. Not wanting to waste any time, one of the detectives searched the young woman's name online and found a social media account that had been deactivated. However, judging by the photos, Mandy Rose Reynolds was a dark-haired, slender young woman, which matched the description of the found body. In one of the pictures, she was holding two dogs, one of which resembled Titan. The detectives were almost convinced that the murdered woman was Mandy Reynolds, but then an unexpected call came into the police station. The caller identified herself as Mandy Rose Reynolds. Mandy said she was calling about her dog, which had been found by the police.
Robinson Police.
Yes, hi, my name's Mandy Reynolds, and I got a message that you guys found my dog.
Mandy wanted to pick up her dog as soon as possible and asked where it was. Whether it was the caller's voice or something else, the detective who took the call asked her name several times, and she confirmed that she was Mandy Rose Reynolds.
This is Detective Perry.
Hi, I just got a message saying you guys found my dog.
We believe so. So, what is your dog?
He's a poodle retriever mix.
Poodle retriever mix?
Yeah, he's white.
Okay.
The detective began cautiously asking additional, clarifying questions, without revealing that the case actually involved a murder. Mandy explained that Titan was a poodle retriever mix. She said that Titan had jumped out of the car while she and her boyfriend were driving from San Marcos, where she lives, to Wichita to visit her boyfriend's ill grandmother. They had stopped at a gas station, and the dog suddenly ran off. The detective continued pressing Mandy with questions, and eventually she lost patience. She didn't understand why she was being interrogated when she simply wanted to get her dog back. She said she would just come to the shelter to pick up Titan, and then hung up.
I'm sorry you guys had to deal with that, but yeah, I'll just come, I'll come get him. What is it? 100 miles?
So that's what I'm trying to figure out is so your name is Mandy Rose Reynolds.
Sure.
So about 1 o'clock last night, you and were at a rest stop.
Oh,
and
Jesus Christ. Yes. What? I mean, what is the interrogation about?
No, I'm just trying to make sure I understand why.
You know what? That dog, that's my dog you guys have. Let's get that straight, detective.
Okay, and that's fine. I understand that.
You know what? I'll just come to the pound. Goodbye.
The detective called her back an hour later. He tried to put her at ease and, this time, admitted that Titan had been found in the same field where a human body was discovered. He said he didn't want to shock her with details, but he needed to ask a few questions. In reality, he just wanted to understand how her dog ended up near the body, what time it had run away, and so on. Mandy said that Titan had escaped at 1 a.m. the previous night. This was the first red flag for the detective, suggesting that the young woman was, at the very least, mistaken about something. Although the field where the body was found was indeed located along the route from San Marcos to Wichita, the timing didn't match. The dog must have run away much earlier. The detective again began asking follow-up questions, which irritated Mandy once more. He tried to explain that she wouldn't be able to retrieve the dog until they allowed it. At that point, the furious young woman said they would be dealing with her lawyer. Because Mandy lived in San Marcos, the Robinson police contacted their colleagues in that city and asked them to check on her at her home. When they knocked, no one answered. So the officers asked the building manager to let them in. The apartment was completely empty. There was no sign of Mandy or any of her belongings. Outside, her black Honda Accord was also gone. The officers sensed that something was wrong, and the strange phone call had only increased their concern. In front of Mandy's building, there was a small truck that had been flagged as stolen. When the officers opened it, they discovered it was filled with Mandy's belongings. What could this mean? Had she tried to flee in a hurry? If so, why had she left all her personal items behind? The detectives contacted Mandy's mother, Carlene Hardy, who described her daughter as a kind, determined young woman who loved animals, especially her loyal dog Titan. Mandy had recently moved to San Marcos, Texas to be closer to her best friend. She had also hoped for new opportunities in the city for herself and her devoted dog, and planned to pursue higher education. But Mandy didn't live alone. Being naturally kind, she had allowed her cousin Derek, who was going through difficult times, to stay with her for a while. Because Mandy's Honda Accord was missing, the detectives decided the car might lead them to the perpetrator. They checked the license plate through the automatic number plate recognition system and discovered that the car was in Wichita, the same city from which Mandy had called. But one thing the police knew for certain: the voice on the phone hadn't sounded like Mandy Rose Reynolds. A dental report comparing her teeth with those of the burned body confirmed a match. The body in the field was indeed 26-year-old Mandy. Moreover, her mother sent a voice message that Mandy had recorded earlier, and it sounded completely different. So who had the detective been speaking to? The police hoped that tracing the Honda Accord would provide the answer. On April 8th, they located the vehicle on a road in Wichita, with a man behind the wheel. When the officers attempted to follow the car, he suddenly accelerated sharply. The driver forced the officers to pursue him through busy streets. The chase across the city lasted a good half hour. At times, the cars accelerated to speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. Finally, the Honda Accord crashed into another vehicle in a grocery store parking lot. The driver fled into the store, terrifying shoppers. He tried to hide among the shelves stocked with canned goods. The police found him within 2 minutes, surrounded him, and arrested him. But who was he? The man who had hoped no one would notice him behind the cans was none other than Mandy's cousin, Derek Daigneault, the same person she had generously allowed to stay in her apartment while he got back on his feet. 27-year-old Derek Joseph Daigneault lived in Wichita. Starting at the age of 15, he kept adding more and more offenses and crimes to his already extensive criminal history. After Derek recovered from an apparent drug overdose, the detectives tried to talk to him. They let him lead the conversation, and he claimed that he had been detained in connection with the death of 40-year-old Shanoa Hansel, who had been found dead on March 1st, 2023 in Wichita. She had been Derek's girlfriend, and after her death and his sudden departure, he had become a suspect. Derek said that she had left on Valentine's Day. He told her that if she left, she might not return. However, he tried to contact her the next day via a social media message. He asked where she was, but the message wasn't even delivered. After her body was discovered, he fled the city because he knew suspicion would fall on him. He went to New Orleans but soon moved to Texas. However, he had to leave Texas because of a cartel operating in San Marcos, so he returned to Wichita. Finally, detectives pressed him on whose car he had been driving when Wichita officers detained him. After some hesitation, Derek admitted that it was his cousin Mandy's car. He had taken the car without her permission. When asked if he had stolen it, he said he had taken it, but it wasn't really his choice. Then the detectives heard a bizarre story. Derek claimed that another man owed the cartel a large sum of money, and the cartel members had forced Derek to dig his own grave, then shot him and left him to die. When asked why they shot him if the debt was owed by someone else, he replied that the cartel had to threaten him to protect Mandy, because he loved his cousin and would have killed them if they had tried to harm her. The relevance of his cousin to another man's debt made no sense, but Derek continued as if nothing were amiss. It turned out that when the cartel shot at him, he was wearing a bulletproof vest. He got out of the grave and drove back to the San Marcos apartment he shared with Mandy. He noticed that Mandy wasn't there, and neither was her dog Titan. In the middle of the room, he saw Mandy's pistol, the same gun that had been used to kill her and later found in the Honda he had stolen. Derek explained that because the car was at the apartment, he had taken it and fled, scared of the cartel members. As for the phone call, Derek said the police had actually spoken on the phone with his cousin Heather Dino. He didn't explain why Heather pretended to be Mandy. Overall, he had answers to all the questions, though they were very strange. Eventually, Derek decided to stop talking to the police, allegedly out of fear of the cartel. It goes without saying that the police did not believe him. His story didn't add up. Officers inspected the San Marcos location where he claimed to have dug his grave and did indeed find freshly turned soil. But when they compared the coordinates with Mandy's phone, they discovered that both her phone and car had been there on April 4th, around 8:30 p.m., contradicting his version. Meanwhile, evidence found in Mandy's car, including the gun used to kill her, told a different story, linking the crime to Derek rather than the cartel members. Derek killed his cousin by shooting her in the head in her own apartment. The day before her body was discovered in the fire, he took her car, put Titan in it, and drove to Walmart, where he calmly and confidently purchased a plastic container, a shovel, and a fuel canister. Footage from the store's security cameras captured the purchase. The parking lot camera recorded Derek leaving in his cousin's car, with Titan sitting in the passenger seat and his head poking out the window. Derek tried to bury Mandy's body but quickly realized digging a grave was extremely difficult. He then headed to Robinson, found a secluded spot in a field, and set the body on fire, pouring gasoline over it. Mandy's phone confirmed this version to the police. It arrived in Robinson on the evening of April 5th, stayed there for 15 minutes, and then left, but without its owner. Titan also remained at the scene. Derek, of course, never admitted why the dog stayed with Mandy's body, but it's reasonable to believe that Titan had escaped from him and remained loyal to his beloved owner until the end. Next, Derek loaded all of Mandy's belongings into the truck to create the appearance that she had left town. Finally, he was the one who called the police, impersonating Mandy to avoid suspicion. Judging by the phone call, he had probably had a better chance pretending to be a stack of canned goods in the grocery store than his own cousin. Derek made a series of foolish mistakes, but the crime might have gone unpunished if it weren't for Titan. Thanks to the dog, the police were able to identify the body, a task that would have been far more difficult, if not impossible, given that Mandy lived hundreds of kilometers from the site where her body was found. Derek's exact motives remain unknown, but Mandy's mother, Carlene Hardy, revealed that her daughter had feared her cousin. She did not disclose the reason for this fear, but it was clearly justified. Carlene explained that Mandy's cohabitation with Derek began under false pretenses. Derek had called Mandy and asked her to drive him to Texas, but upon arrival he remained in her apartment. Mandy assumed he would leave soon, but he had other plans. He not only lived with her, but also stole her money. In March, Derek stole several $1,000s from Mandy and falsely accused her mother, Carlene. Even Mandy's angelic patience reached its limit, and she decided to ask Derek to leave her apartment. This confrontation appears to have triggered the tragic chain of events leading to her death. For her kindness, Derek repaid Mandy with murder. He was ultimately charged with the killing of his cousin, Mandy Rose Reynolds. Derek stood trial in November 2024. It took the jury just half an hour to find him guilty. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. As for the death of his girlfriend Shanoa Hansel, there was no evidence linking him to that case. In any event, he is currently serving his sentence in a Texas prison, and all of this was thanks to Titan. At every stage of the case, he was by Mandy's side, sometimes invisibly present, guiding the investigation. From the very beginning, he stayed with his owner, which helped identify her. Later, he helped link her killer to the crime, appearing on video near him. And finally, he was present in the courtroom as a silent symbol of the unbreakable bond he shared with Mandy. Titan didn't just help achieve justice for Mandy's murder. He was at the center of it all. It is heartening to know that Titan is now in safe, loving hands. He lives with Mandy's best friend, the very friend she had moved closer to, and they are happy to have each other.